so this period becomes that period when you figure out what you like and don't like and what you love and don't love. I talked to somebody over the weekend. It was a gentleman, and he was saying that he hadn't been in a serious relationship in 10 years. And his family was a little bit concerned, but he said to me, I gotta tell you, I really enjoyed that time to myself. And he said I didn't have any kind of drama or that the stress of a relationship, all of that was gone. And I wrote back to him, we were texting, and I wrote back to him and said,
this is the Joy Act, where finding joy beyond divorce begins with your understanding that the depth of your heartache shows the depth of your capacity for joy. I'm Dr. Lisa Summerour, and together we'll use accountability, alignment, communication, and trust to transform your journey. It's time to step into the Joy Act.
Welcome to the Joy Act, because every ending is the beginning of something beautiful if you act in joy. I am Dr. Lisa Summerour, accredited breakup and divorce coach and your host. And today I'm going to be talking about something that came to me not that long ago, actually. I was fixing dinner and it involves a duck. Who knew? Who knew? But I'm excited about this because I think it's a new way or an interesting way to explain something to people that I think is really important and necessary, especially doing the recovery work that I do and many other people do. I was actually cooking dinner this past weekend and I was brining the duck, right? And I was actually pouring the brine out of the pot that the duck was in. So in preparing this, this inspiration actually hit me as I was doing this, and I thought, isn't this really what we need emotionally as well after we go through a difficult relationship? We need to find a way to purge the things out of us that we don't need anymore, to just get those things out and replace it and replenish it with things that are going to serve us better. So for all of you foodies out there, this might be the first time that your culinary experience has merged with some kind of a healing, and the two things have overlapped, and you may find that you have a slight advantage over the rest of us because you understand marinades and brines, and now you're going to see that you could have a little head start on understanding how they connect, how it connects with relationship recovery, right? So let me define brining. If you have never heard of it, don't feel bad. I've known about it for a few years, but that's because one of my sisters, who has been doing it with her meats for decades, actually was sharing it with me one day, and I was like, wait a minute, what is that? So brining is a technique that involves soaking the meat or whatever it is in a solution of salt and water. So it's salt water, just like you would gargle with if you had a sore throat, but it's big container, big pot or pan or whatever of salt water. You put your meat in it and it sits in it for anywhere from 6 hours, 24 hours, whatever the recipe calls. I actually had our duck in it for a day. And in addition to the salt water, I actually was put seasoning. I put spices in there. So I had bay leaves and 3 or 4 other spices, because while the salt water is actually pulling out certain impurities, it's also being infused with these spices. And I thought, this is really the same thing that we do in working with people going through emotional difficulties. So in my case, people who are going through out of a bad relationship or a divorce, anything that has caused them a lot of emotional angst or trauma or sadness or whatever part of the stage of the loss cycle they might be in, part of the process is helping them identify the things that are no longer working for them, right, and replacing them. So emotional brining, the new phrase that I am coining, is basically, it's a new therapeutic technique that is being used, but I'm putting a word to it. I'm putting a new phrase to it. And it defines this process of detoxing and reflecting and, in a sense, reseasoning. How about that? Reseasoning yourself after going through emotional challenges, so you can come through these things with a better awareness or a different awareness and experiencing growth. So it is a lot like brining the duck, but it's about preparing you for the next phase. And that is the next phase, whether it's a relationship or just your life in general, right? Then when you think about brining emotionally, it detoxes that emotional baggage and any dysfunctions or bad behavior, and it reseasons us Yeah, I like that. It re-seasons us with self-discovery, self-care, and growth. Today's episode is going to introduce you to this concept that I'm calling emotional brining. And I want to offer this fresh perspective on healing after coming out of a relationship. This is more than just taking time for yourself. And I think that's what makes it a little different. This concept that I'm calling emotional brining is more than just taking time for yourself. It's an intentional healing process. And it actually gives you a way of understanding the intentionality behind it, that the first thing I need to do is actually remove the things that are no longer working for me and then replace them with things that are enhancing for me. Let's say it's trauma-informed therapy. That detox phase would you release stored emotional pain. That would be part of that detox. Let's identify this stored emotional pain and remove it. If it's cognitive, that marinating gives clients an opportunity to identify those negative patterns and develop healthy ones. Emotional brining provides a clear metaphor to help people view different types of therapeutic methods in another way. There is structured healing time, and it acknowledges that this healing period, just like the brining process, you can't rush it, right? I could stick that meat in that salt water for 30 minutes, and it's not going to be the same as if it was in there for 24 hours. It's just not going to do the same thing. Matter of fact, if you don't give it enough time, it won't be effective at all. And this emotional brining is the same way. You need to allow yourself whatever time it takes so that the detox can happen and you can adjust to the detox, because sometimes even though we know we need to get rid of this bad behavior or we need to not continue to gravitate towards certain personality types that aren't good for us, because it's been a habit, it's really difficult sometimes to break those habits, even the ones that aren't good for us. When we talk about taking time, I want to mention this book because I talked about this, I think, last week. This book is called It's Not You, Dr. Ramani. She is a PhD. She does a lot of focus on narcissism. The book was so good, I bought the book and listened to her narrated book version because I really just couldn't get enough of this book. But one of the things she recommends, and I look at this as that brining period, is she says take a year off. Take a year off for a year after coming out. In her case, she's talking about a relationship with somebody who is narcissistic or has narcissistic behaviors. Take a year off just for yourself. And I look at that as that emotional brining period, because this is when you really spend time looking over what you just experienced and understanding how did it impact you. What residue do you have from that? What do you need to detox from? What do you need to purge from your system? And then what are you going to put back in? And so this period becomes that period when you figure out what you like and don't like and what you love and don't love. I talked to somebody over the weekend. It was a gentleman, and he was saying that he hadn't been in a serious relationship in 10 years. And his family was a little bit concerned.
You've built a successful career, checked all the right boxes, but after divorce, why does it feel like everything is falling apart? Searching for answers online at 2 a.m., it will not bring you peace. Neither will pretending you're fine when inside you're anything but. I remember those feelings, the exhaustion, the anxiety, and the frustration from feeling stuck. It seemed like no matter what I did, I could not figure out a way to move past the pain. If you are dealing with a divorce while you're also managing your career, I've been there. Things didn't get better for me until I stopped waiting for time to heal me and I took control of my own healing. And that's how this came about. That's why I designed the 4 essential steps to creating joy after a difficult divorce. It's a masterclass for accomplished women just like you who are ready to move forward. It's time to break the cycle. Imagine waking up feeling lighter, knowing exactly what to do next, and rediscovering your joy, not just surviving, but thriving. In this masterclass, you'll learn the biggest mistakes that keep you stuck in divorce pain, why traditional recovery methods don't always work for high-achieving women, and the 4 essential steps to rebuilding your confidence and joy. Give yourself permission to stop reliving the past and start designing the future you deserve. Register today.
But he said to me, I got to tell you, I really enjoyed that time to myself. And he said I didn't have any kind of drama or that the stress from of a relationship, all of that was gone. And I wrote back to him, we were texting, and I wrote back to him and said, good for you. I said, because that was an amazing gift you gave yourself. And I think for many of us, it's difficult to come out of a relationship, even when it's a really difficult one, and decide that we need to be alone on purpose and with intention behind it. And a part of that is because coming out of a relationship, if you feel like you were discarded or you feel less than or you don't feel desirable, hey, what better way to feel desirable than to have somebody else desire you like immediately? But that's almost like taking the duck or the turkey or the chicken right out of the wrap from the store and just throwing it in the oven. It's not going to taste the same. That prep time is important. So the other way that you can look at this is if one of your behaviors is people pleasing, and so you're looking for this next person that you're going to be able to show how much you love them and you care for them and you care about them and all the things you can do, that could be another reason you run back into another relationship really soon instead of taking this time to emotionally brine. Oh, I'm making rhymes and everything. Some of the examples, let me see here. I'm looking at my notes. Some of the examples that the things that we detox from, those people-pleasing behaviors, losing your boundaries or not being able to set boundaries, chronic self-doubt. Whew, man. Chronic self-doubt and negative self-talk, something else that we could benefit from emotional detoxing, from this brining process. Those unhealthy relationship patterns and trauma responses, like being codependent, fear of being alone, fear of making decisions. These are some of the things that can be dealt with during that period of the emotional brining process. Let's talk about some actionable tips for detoxing emotionally. Some of the things that you can do. Obviously, journaling to process your emotions, obviously a huge one. It's funny, this is the first one I'm mentioning because I think I mention that so often that I need to create a journal. I need to have my own journal because I'm always promoting journaling. Whether it's a breakup and divorce coach like myself, or you want to go to a therapist for some things that go back into your childhood, to have somebody help you process those sorts of things. Practicing mindfulness and being present and grounded. I talk about some of these practices in my book, Divorce is Not a Destination. And these are just some of the things that you can do that would support you in detoxing emotionally, right? So I talked about the things you might want to detox from, some of the activities or things that you can do to detox, and then signs that you're ready to move from detoxing to marinating. So if you were that duck in that water, the salt has already drawn out the blood. When I poured that water out, you could see all the red in the water. You could see the discoloration in it. So the salt will pull out those impurities. It draws the blood out of the meat. And now it's time to marinate. And interestingly, in brining, it's doing it at the same time because it's sitting in there. For us, it could be happening simultaneously, but you may realize that in the beginning, there's a lot more detoxing going on than there is reseasoning. And it may just be a slow transitioning into the reseasoning. It's almost like you have to make room by detoxing. You have to make room for removing. I think it was Dr. Barrett used to say, you got to take the old jelly out of the donut before you can put new jelly in. Yeah, there's a visual for you. I don't know where all this food stuff is coming from. So signs that you're ready to move on from detoxing to the marination. You feel more emotionally stable. That's a huge one. Sometimes we just aren't ready. And when you can slow down and take time, whether it's this year, I do think the year is a good amount of time. I know for some people, a year sounds like an extremely long time. But tell yourself, let me do 6 months first and see where I am. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you might not meet someone, but yeah, it might mean that you only meet them and have somebody to do something with every now and then, but you're intentionally not making this serious and not making it a big committed relationship. Yeah, maybe it's better that you just go cold turkey, cold duck, whatever it is. But the signs that you're ready to move on from detoxing and marinating is that you feel more stable emotionally. Oh, wow. Reduced reactivity to ex-partner or past relationships. So let me talk about that. There was a time a while ago I was talking to someone and they had broken up with their friend at the time. the other person was still contacting them for advice and a shoulder to lean on, and oh, you're the only person that understands me. And I said, you're going to have to stop that. And they were like, oh, but they don't have. And I said, and I get it. And I realized that you were that crutch for them for a long time. But in order for you to do your emotional brining, you're going to have to disconnect from that past relationship. And their response to me was, I can't just stop dealing with them just like that. And I was telling another friend of mine who's a therapist, and we simultaneously to each other, we were like, yes, you can. And it's not to be cold. It's not to be hard or heartless. It's about your healing. And so this emotional brining period, in order for you to be ready to go from detox to marinating, to go from purging yourself of all the things that are no longer working for you to bringing in the new things, you cannot keep this connection to something that was dysfunctional in your life, because it is sucking out energy that you need for yourself at the moment, right? Thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying this episode. I wanted to take just a minute and share something with you. There is one question that I get asked more often than any other question, and that's, how do you navigate the difficult journey of a divorce? And that's exactly why I wrote Divorce is Not a Destination. So if you're a woman who is going through a divorce right now, you've been through one recently, or you think divorce might be on the horizon, I wrote Divorce is Not a Destination specifically with you in mind. I wanted to give you practical tools on learning how to communicate better with yourself, with your children if you have any, and even with your ex as you're going through this process. I also wanted to share with you the importance of having a support team and identifying who the right people are for you to build and nurture the support team that's going to best serve you. And finally, to you, the loss cycle. And those are the emotional stages that we go through when we're going through a divorce. I wanted you to be able to put a name to what it is that you're feeling, and know that everything that you're experiencing is perfectly normal for what's happening to you right now. So if you are ready to start your healing journey, get a copy of Divorce is Not a Destination. You can order one at my website, divorceisnotadestination.com, or go to Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, or check with your local bookstore. Now, let's get back to this episode. In order for you to be ready to go from detox to marinating, to go from purging yourself of all the things that are no longer working for you to bringing in the new things, you cannot keep this connection to something that was dysfunctional in your life, because it is sucking out energy that you need for yourself at the moment, right? Reducing the reactivity to ex-partners and past relationships, that is something that's an important part of that detox process, so that you are prepared to receive what you need to receive. Otherwise, they could end up just being in the way. Because as you're making changes and growing, these are sometimes the people go, oh, so why are you acting different now? Oh, what's going on with you? And you don't need that in your life if you're trying to move into another phase. So increased clarity and your personal values and boundaries. You will know that you're ready to start really receiving, because you're getting comfortable or intentional about your values. And I talk about values when I'm talking about your alignment. And you also setting boundaries for yourself. Boundaries are the path to freedom that we often miss, because we think there's something bad about setting boundaries. Like we feel uncomfortable. People are going to think things about us because you're now saying no. And let me tell you, it can be the most freeing experience you have when you start setting boundaries for yourself. And you'll be like, I should have done this sooner, right? So another way you'll know is a return of natural joy and curiosity. When you realize that you are just walking around with a smile on your face, that you just feel this kind of calm or peace that you haven't experienced in a while, and it's not connected to something external. It's not connected to another person coming into the room and smiling or doing whatever people will do. It's something that you have internalized on your own behalf. That's when you know you're ready to go from detoxing to marinating and re-seasoning your life with all the good stuff that you want to have now. So this absorbing the good stuff, this time by yourself, I already told you about the person who spent 10 years doing this. 10 years. Can you imagine the gift that you give yourself? How much do you think you would learn about yourself just in 1 year? Forget about 10 years. And I'll tell you what's great about this. And yeah, there's another side to this. You can celebrate the opportunity of rediscovering who you are, what your values are, what things are important to you, figuring out who you are authentically. These are things I really love to do. And I want to find somebody when I'm looking again that enjoys these. I don't want to continue to compromise things that really matter to me. It gives you time to do that. But if you stay in the brine too long, that's not good either. Now, I don't know what the time frame is. 10 years is a long time. And the other side of that is he now has to analyze whether he might have stayed in a little longer than he should have and been so isolated, because the challenge now is, what are you going to be like when you're out meeting people? Have you gotten so comfortable being by yourself that you don't have a way to make room for another person? Because, and let me just say it this way, if that's not what you want, then it doesn't matter, right? If you have decided, I'm going to be by myself, I like being by myself, I'm not trying to introduce another person, a relationship into my life, then that's different. But this person was saying to me that they actually do want to meet someone. They are ready to be in another relationship. And so he may find in time that 10 years is now something he's got to do a workaround, because you get set in your own ways and realize, oh, I really wasn't planning for somebody else to step into my life, and I got to figure out how to navigate this, because it may not happen naturally. These are things that we have to work at. And sometimes we think, oh, when the right person comes along, it'll all magically happen. It's not magic, it's intention. So that the brining period, if you leave that meat in there too long, it could end up becoming too salty. You might end up finding out, okay, I left it in here a little bit longer than it should. I don't know if it's going to just keep absorbing salt. I'll have to ask somebody who does brining, is it possible that it could get too salty? You leave it in there too long. I don't know. But you want to have that balance between enjoying your solitude and re-engaging in life and experiencing other people. So you got to figure out what that balance is. Oh gosh, so the brining timer. How long do you brine? How long do you brine? Look, if you end a relationship that's been going on for 25 years and 3 kids and all of those things, that brining time may need to be a little bit longer. Or if you were in a really difficult or toxic relationship, even if that only went on for a year or 2, you may need more time to brine than somebody who just came out of a relationship 3 months that was 3 months long. And so you get to look at, how much time do I actually need for this emotional brining to be effective for me? And nobody can really tell you what that looks like, but it's okay for you to experiment and feel and go back to some of the signs that you're ready to go from detox to marinating. If you go back through those things again, that would be a good indication. You feel more emotionally stable. You're able to disconnect from your ex. You're walking around with a sense of inner peace or joy that is coming from you. It's emanating from you. It's not a happiness that is coming from an external place. I make that distinction between happiness and joy. So you don't want to rush the process, but you do want to give it the time that it deserves based on what your experience has been. And that is also an indication as to whether or not you need somebody like me who's a coach. You need a coach and a therapist, or you just need a therapist. What do you need? And in my book, I talk about developing your support team, the support team that's going to be best for you. And I list the different people that you may want to consider being a part of your support team. And so you can look at that during that brining period as well to go, who do I need to help me with the detox? Who do I need to help me through this emotional brining period? And what will that look like? And are these people also able to support me when I start reseasoning myself? The importance of being patient with yourself during this process and being intentional, right? Tips for marinating intentionally. What's that look like? Surround yourself with those positive influences. One of the things that has always worked for me is books. You can see my bookshelf back here. I am surrounded by books because I love reading books. I love listening to books. And then I have a place on my wall behind, you can't see it, on the other side of the room, where I actually list all the books that I've read that year. But your books and your hobbies and your support team are all things that are tips that can help you marinate intentionally, right? So you want to be purposeful about this and not just, oh, let me just see what happens. Experiment with new activities. and revisit some old passions. And I've talked about this in other episodes, because sometimes there are things that we gave up during those relationships. And it's not like you look back and you regret it. You might be honest with yourself if you go, man, I can't believe I gave up tennis. I played tennis for 25 years because my partner never wanted to play tennis and didn't want me. Whatever the reasons were, be really honest with yourself about the reasons, even if you don't like the answers. It's not about you judging them at this point. It's about you being honest and acknowledging them, because those reasons made good sense to you at the time. And so it's okay for you to look back now and go, yeah, I probably wouldn't do that today, but I understand why I did it then. Okay? So experiment with those new activities. Let's talk about how this emotional brining actually prepares you for the next phase. So for my duck, the brining prepared me to put it in the oven so that it could cook, and to make sure the meat was going to be well seasoned and tender and all this sort of stuff. So this emotional brining prepares you for your next phase, which would include recognizing your self-worth, recognizing your ability to set boundaries, and that's important to you and that you're getting good at it. This emotional brining prepares you for the next phase, just like brining prepared my duck for the next phase. Emotional brining helps you to recognize your worth and set boundaries. It's going to help you approach new relationships with clarity and I'm not going to use the term strength, but power. You feel empowered. Help you share and maintain autonomy so that you can make room for someone else if that's your desire. Because this is going to be so much easier and so much better for you if you have prepared for making room for somebody else. And it's conversations that you have with yourself. It's the way you navigate in the spaces that you are in. It's the conversations you're going to be able to have and share when you actually start experimenting by meeting other people and seeing if this is a good potential fit for you. You want to be able to honor your needs and your desires, practicing healthy communication. All of these things are going to be signs that you are ready for that next phase in your life. You want to honor your needs and your desires and practice healthy communication and mutual respect, all of those things. I've walked you through my new term, emotional brining, and I hope it has helped. Like the next time, I want you to go look up brining, and I want you to find something, if you're a meat eater, find something that you can brine and cook it and go through this physical experience of going, oh yeah, I get this now. Who knew I'd be talking about ducks and salt water? Emotional brining is about detoxing and reseasoning, preparing you for this next phase in your life after coming out of a difficult or toxic relationship, or a divorce, because most of the time they're not easy on us emotionally. And it's preparing you for the life that you want for yourself and the life that you deserve for yourself. And you get to take your time. You coming out of this brining period where you're really focusing on detoxing and supplying yourself with the things that you really need so that you can heal, I want to encourage you to think about wherever you are in your relationship process. Would this be the brining phase for you? Are you detoxing right now after coming out of a relationship? Are you in that reseasoning phase? Are you marinating and all this good stuff so that you can be refreshed and reseasoned? Where are you in your preparation phase? And what flavors are you adding to your life? What's your spice look like? What are your seasonings? What are the things that you're putting in your life that are actually enhancing you and making you walk around with this glow, right? What is bringing you joy? So I want you to go to my blog, go to drlisasummerour.com/blog. I'll be posting on this same subject. And I want to invite you to subscribe here at my YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button so you'll know when I have another episode coming up. They're every Thursday. And catch me on TikTok and on Instagram and Thread at Dr. Lisa. Thank you for hanging here with me this episode with my emotional brining reveal. And this will be getting introduced in my workshops and some of my programs. I'm setting up a masterclass right now, and you will be seeing emotional brining in there. Thank you for hanging out with me here. Remember that joy is within reach, and every ending is a new beginning. So go, act in joy.